Hi everyone, Aiden here at the etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the B&W Companion Gooseneck-to-5th-Wheel trailer hitch adapter, and we're going to be checking it out and showing you how to install it on our 2022 GMC Sierra 2500. Now it's going to be a great option for you if you've already got the setup for a gooseneck trailer, you've got that underbed kit, and you tow a gooseneck trailer but need the opportunity or the ability to also tow a fifth wheel. This is going to be great because it utilizes the existing underbed kit from your gooseneck and allows you to just drop this whole assembly in place aside from the initial setup, but it gets you that opportunity to tow it and do it really easily. So you can choose between either one and it makes the whole process pretty simple. Let's check it out. Functionally, this is going to be pretty much the exact same as the B&W Companion fifth wheel. So if you're familiar with that, you're going to be familiar with this. It's got that 20,000 pound gross trailer weight rating, that's how much it can pull, and the 5,000 pound vertical load limit. Now keep in mind that's what the hitch itself is rated for, not necessarily your truck, so be sure to check that and all the other components in your towing system to make sure that you're going by the lowest rated component and hauling safely. And under here, if you can see, there is really what sets this apart, is the hookup point. It drops into that same opening that our gooseneck ball would. We'll cover this more in the install and show you all the setup process, but that's really where this is going to differ, is just that attachment point right there. And to help make sure everything's extra secure, we do have these long legs as the base and these long slats that drop into and fit the shape of the ribs of the bed here. Again, just to give it a strong base and keep everything nice and solid. Now up top, we've got that dual jaw design, which can be controlled with the handle on the outside, pulling it out and back. Then our kingpin or our fifth wheel can hook up to it. We just back up at this point. It would slot into place and re-secure it with the handle and the pin and clip to make sure that nothing's getting out. And with those dual jaws, we've got 360 degrees of contact around the kingpin, plus the head is going to have a tilt back and forth to, one, maybe help hooking up if we're not perfectly aligned, but also to help absorb some road shock whenever we're driving. Any sort of chucking or back and forth movement that we experience going down the road, the hitch head is going to help absorb as we're driving. With this, you do get a lot of points for adjustment, both in the height and the front to back. For the height, we've got 3 different height settings. We've got it in the lowest position right now, just to show you what that would look like, coming in at 16¼ inches from the bed to the top of the fifth wheel head. At the highest setting, it's going to be 18¼ inch. So with that in mind, just be sure to check your truck and trailer combination, see if one of those height settings is going to be right for you. Now for the front and back, you've got 4 inches of adjustment front to back. That's going to be done all during the initial install process as we're setting things up. So if you've got a shorter bed truck and you need additional clearance from your cab to maybe have some sharper turns, you can get that just by setting it up in the initial install process. That being said, if you find yourself needing more adjustment than that and you like this kit, there is an option for a slider base option. That's going to be pretty much the exact same fifth wheel, but on a set of sliding rails. That's going to get you even more turning clearance when you need it. You can hop out, pull the handle, let the base slide back, and get you a lot more, up to 12 inches of additional turning clearance. So with that, if you've got a short bed truck or something like a tonneau cover like we have today, that might be my recommendation. And with that kit, it also just drops right into the gooseneck opening, so you can make sure it's going to work with your setup. But with that said, if you've got a long bed truck, this might be just fine for you. Now all around, you've got a solid steel construction, and I will say B&W has really superb construction with their products. This has a gray powder coat finish over the top of it to help keep rust and corrosion down and provide a protective coating over that steel. I will say that at the hitch head here, that's probably where you're most susceptible to seeing wear and tear, just because with your kingpin and your fifth wheel pin box, you've got that metal on metal contact happening. My recommendation would be to pick up a grease plate. Now the advantage to a system like this versus a standard fifth wheel that mounts into industry standard rails is that there's really nothing left behind whenever we remove it from the truck bed, much like a factory puck system if you have ever seen a truck that has one of those. Now to do that, it is able to be broken down to create a little bit of a lighter system. That being said, this whole thing is very heavy still, so be mindful of that and maybe grab an extra set of hands. To remove the hitch head, pull those pins and clips like you saw before, and lift up on the sides here to remove it from the main body. Watch out for those pins. They could get kind of bound up on the main body, and if they are, that's another point to maybe grab an extra set of hands or just hold on to them. With the head removed, we can access this bolt underneath. We'll see this more in the install process, but this is our adjustment bolt. So loosen it up. You'll have it torqued during the install process, so it might be a little bit snug. With the draw bolt loosened, we can head outside our truck bed and pull out on our latch lever and then head back inside the truck bed. Now this is the point that's probably going to get a bit heavy. That's the one downside of the B&W system here, is that it's very bulky. You've got handholds on the sides though, and if you're comfortable with it, you can lift it up and out of place. Now if you can get it out by yourself, chances are you're probably going to need some help getting it out of the whole truck bed. But essentially, when you set it aside, you're left with nothing but the hole from the gooseneck there. So it's full bed access for when you need it. If you've got the B&W Gooseneck and you want the B&W 5th wheel, because let's face it, their construction is rock solid and they make a great product, then this is going to be a great kit. So let's go ahead and walk through the installation process now and show you how it's done. Now the first thing you want to do is set the base into the bed. Once that's in there, you're going to have these plastic slats that align with the ribs in your bed. Now depending on the spacing and how it works out, you might have these face up or face down. We've got ours with the wider portion face up, just because it fits in the bed better, and you can see it matches up with the slotted holes better on both sides. After that, we can take one of our machine screws, pass it up through the bottom to the threads that are facing up, pop on a flat washer, a lock washer, and then one of your nuts onto those exposed threads for all four corners. And then we can come back through and tighten these down to secure these ribs in place. Now the weight of the base here should help hold it in place as we tighten it down, but if you need to, maybe have a friend lift up and you can hold the screw end with a Phillips head screwdriver. With our gooseneck in the closed position, we can take the socket post, drop it in place in whatever orientation we decided would be best for it, and then set the companion base on top of it. Now this is going to be pretty heavy, so if you need help, get help. And then it's not going to sit all the way down, so just keep that in mind. We're here to loosely set it in place and get our hardware started. That's going to be some of these bolts that don't have the unthreaded portion on them with a lock washer, 8 in total, 4 on each side, loosely threaded into the holes on that socket post, just hand tight for now. One thing I would suggest is if you have any wooden blocks or a friend to just help kind of balance this out, since it is just kind of hanging by the socket post here, it's a little imbalanced, so getting everything started by hand is kind of difficult. But again, with some wooden blocks, I think this would be really easy. Now down in the socket post underneath, there's a threaded block. You won't be able to see it on camera right now, just know that it's there. And we're gonna take our adjustment screw here. Now it's gonna be the longest one in our kit, and that's going to drop down through the hole that we opened up, leading to the socket post, and you can kind of feel the block in there. So just try to thread this in by hand, and you can check to see if it's caught by just lifting up, and if you can't lift it back out, and you can feel some weight and resistance to it, then you know you've kind of grabbed onto that block appropriately. And at this point, we actually want to lift the companion base up and out of the gooseneck so that we can actually see what's going on underneath. As I lift this up and tip it up, you can see that block underneath. Basically, we want to tighten this so that the block is ending up level and flush with the rest of the socket post here. So I'm just going to get this threaded in by hand and tighten it up until it's level. Just like that. And with the latch on the gooseneck hitch opened up and the block in place, we can drop this down through fully into place. and then repin it on the outside of our truck bed. We can then torque down that adjustment screw to the specifications now that everything's pinned in and dropped into place. And after that's torqued, we can slide this plate over it and tighten and torque all the hardware on the side. Now once that's torqued, the plate will just slide down over the top like that to keep it held captive. We can tighten this down a bit too if we want to, and then torque all the hardware on the sides. With the base secured, we can install our uprights or our pivot arms. These have two separate sides labeled A and B on the inside of them, and you can install these in a number of different ways in different orientations. Now, holding it up to the side like this, you can see one side is more slanted and the other side is more upright. Still at an angle, but a little bit more straight. If I hold them up side by side right next to each other, you can see how they're a little bit different and shifted. Your positioning with these is really going to depend on how far back you want your fifth wheel to sit and how much clearance, again, you need from the cab. With the way we've got ours dropped into our gooseneck right now, it's shifted back quite a bit. So I've chosen to orient this just a little bit back, so we're still getting some additional clearance from our cab, but it's nothing too crazy. And then from there, you can also pick your height setting that you want, choosing from 3 different heights. I've just got ours in the lowest position right now, just for demonstration purposes, really, to show you how it will install. It's going to be a little bit easier to get the camera in there and kind of show you. But you want to get all that picked out depending on your truck and trailer combination, and make sure that you measure the height of where your fifth wheel and your kingpin, all that's going to sit. So once you've got your position picked out, you can take your bolts included in your kit that have this part at the top near the bolt head without the threads, pop a lock washer on there, and feed it through the holes on those pivot arms to the outside. Now through the handle here, we can feed in our threaded blocks. The side right here where the threads don't start immediately is the side we want to feed into. You can see how the threads start right away on that side. We want that facing out. And just line that up with the threads of our bolt. Might be a little hard to get my hand in there and see it on camera, but get those started by hand, both for the top and the bottom on both sides for 4 bolts in total. And just like all of our other hardware, we want to make sure we get this torqued down properly on all the different sides. Then we can drop the head onto those pivot arms. Now it is important to mention, in the box with the head, you'll have a spring clip that needs to attach to one of the arms, but since it comes in separate boxes and we're not leaving this on here today, we're actually leaving that part out, but you just hammer it onto one of the pivot arms as noted in the instructions. So once this is set down over those pivot arms, we can unpin both sides, let it drop down fully in place, and then repin it and clip it to make sure everything stays secured. And then we can install our handle. And the handle will just attach through this slotted hole right here. The holes will line up on top, drop our screws down through the top, and secure underneath with these nuts. And that'll do it for our installation and our look at the B&W Companion Gooseneck-to-5th-Wheel Trailer Hitch Adapter. Thanks for watching.